My sister-in-law stated that she had never actually found herself with any type of a desire to eat flowers. I don't know. I think the part of me that's interested in eating flowers is the little girl inside of me that wants to flit through the forest and talk with the animals and drink dew and eat edible flowers. Eating flowers isn't that crazy of an idea. Lots of people eat artichokes, which is the bud of a thistle plant. Often edible flowers don't have much flavor to speak of. They're just colored vegetation of the plant. That it can be a lot of fun though to add to liven up the appearance of a dish. But there are a couple of flowers that have a really strong flavor as well. If you have a little bit of that romantic or magical side of you that's interested in edible flowers, today I'm going to share with you my 9 favorite edible flowers and how I use them. And stay tuned at the end for bonus number 10, which is edible but definitely not my favorite. Always remember, along with anything else you plan on eating, make sure that you know that the flowers haven't been sprayed with any chemicals. One of the most commonly known edible flowers is the viola or a pansy. They're related and almost the same, but violas have little, about 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch flowers, and pansy flowers can be about 2 inches to 3 inches, and they come in a lot of really great colors. They're small mounding plants that you can use in landscape borders. And the flowers themselves don't have a really strong flavor. Some people describe it as a little bit of a wintergreen flavor. Violas and pansies are great as garnish to salads to liven up the color of them. Many people take the small viola flowers. You can freeze them into ice cubes. And my favorite thing I've been trying lately is pressing flowers into sugar cookies. I've been experimenting with this process. At first I tried. Some people suggest almost lacquering the flour to the cookie with a little bit of an egg whitewash. I tried this and sprinkled with sugar as well. I think I prefer pressing the flowers into a bright white icing because this really helps the color of the flowers to pop and makes a real clean, pretty look. I'll share the recipe with you here as soon as I get it to my liking. The very first that I ever became aware of was the common blue violet. They grow as a weed around here through our grass and lawn. Also, they grew in Utah where my husband and I were going to school, and we were engaged at the time, and we were walking home from school to the apartment that my husband was living in that we were going to live in together once we were married. It was springtime, and we were walking past someone's yard, and he said, "Oh, violets, my favorite." And he bent over and picked up a blue violet and popped it in his mouth. And I was totally surprised. He's like, "We do this all the time growing up in Oregon." I'm from Arizona, so I'd never seen that done before. Violets can also be used to make violet jelly. It's a pretty rosy colored jelly. If blue violets don't grow around you, you can buy seed to grow them in your garden, but just make sure you understand that they spread readily. Nasturtiums are definitely not in the bland category. Nasturtiums have a very fiery, spicy flavor to them, sometimes compared to watercress or mustard greens. But nasturtiums come in the brightest, hottest colors. Last summer I had nasturtium growing in my front orchard, and the orange was so vibrant it almost glowed. I could see it across the yard every time I came outside. They create big, tropical, beautiful looking flowers, and they're definitely a fun addition to a salad. Nasturtium flower buds can also be pickled and used as a replacement for capers in recipes. Nasturtium plants come in 2 varieties, either mounding varieties or vining varieties. They're both really great in containers as well. So pick which one would be best where you want to plant it. Bachelors buttons are most often found in the cornflower blue color, but can be found in other colors as well. Pull the petals off to press into cookies or to garnish in salads. Or for fun, try something like rolling a log of goat cheese in the flower petals or creating a compound herb butter. Bachelors buttons will grow big, crazy plants up to 4 feet tall and a couple feet wide, so plant it somewhere where it's got room to spread out. Chive blossoms are a real treat of the springtime. The beautiful purple flowers are so cheerful, and they're edible as well. Chive blossoms do have a spicy flavor to them, so I did try pressing them to cookies once, but the flavors didn't really go together. Chive blossom vinegar is a common homemade condiment, but also if you pick the flowers at the bud stage before they bloom, you can pickle those blossoms as well and eat them on bagels with cream cheese and lox. Any herbs in your garden that are flowering have edible blossoms. So this could be thyme blossoms or rosemary blossoms. These again would be good for making a compound butter with the herbs as well, but would add a real fun color to those. An herb worthy of its own mention is chamomile. The flowers are edible and are most often dried and used in a flavorful tea. Chamomile blossoms have an apple scent that smells so sweet and delicious. They make kind of wispy plants, but planted in a grouping together can make a real big statement. Any of your brassica plants, meaning your cabbages or broccolis or cauliflowers, if they get too warm and go to seed or bolt, they create edible flowers. These pretty yellow flowers have a little bit of a broccoli flavor, and I pressed them in with these cookies. My kids love to eat broccoli flowers. But don't be afraid, if your broccoli starts to flower, you can still eat the rest of the broccoli. Calendula is a medicinal herb used for making skin salves, but the petals are edible as well, and they're bright. They come in a lot of different colors. Most common is they're bright orange, and they make a colorful addition to salads or are fun frozen into ice cubes as well. Borage is a well-known edible flower. They have kind of hairy gray leaves. They'll grow about 3 feet tall, so don't plant them up front. When my husband and I were in Bryan, Texas, we had some friends that were starting a swanky farm-to-table restaurant in downtown Bryan, and we got invited to one of the preview nights for the restaurant. That was the first time I'd seen borage flowers. Borage flowers were used as garnish. I recognized them. I had never grown them before and decided then that I wanted to try and grow them as well. They're a pretty mild flavor, but just have a sweet little center of nectar in the middle. Here's your bonus flower that is edible technically, but whether or not you find it palatable is another question. Snapdragons are, well, a well-known flower that is in fact edible. I heard the flavor was terrible, and I tried one out last summer, and I agree. A very bitter, bitter flower with quite the aftertaste. Feel free to safely use snapdragons as a garnish on edible foods without worry of it bringing any toxicity to the food. However, maybe just brush it aside and don't worry about trying to eat it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure to stick around this summer and see all the fun that I have with growing flowers in my vegetable garden. If you haven't seen my video with 9 of my favorite flowers to grow that are self-seeding, check that out.